Hi, my name is Jay Wilson. I'm the game director on Diablo 3. We're here at Gamescom, and you are watching Gamona.de. We make you play.
So, dann ist es ja wunderbar, den Jay Wilson am Tisch zu haben, seines Zeichens der Lead Designer. Is it correct, Lead Design? The Game Director, I'm sorry. Mr. Jay Wilson für Diablo 3. Jay, my first question, of course, must be the question after for the Diablo 3 beta. So, are we really close? When can we expect to be into the beta?
We're still shooting for Q3, which means we're very close since Q3 ends in, I believe, the end of September. So we are hoping to have the beta out really soon. We don't have an official date yet, though.
Will this be a really limited beta this time, or will you do something like an open beta, or can we call it closed beta?
It's a closed beta. We're not gonna do open. We are gonna do a lot of keys though, and we're gonna give out a fair amount initially, and then as with most of our betas, I'm sure we'll continue to add more keys as we go. Most of the features that are more convenience-oriented features like that aren't really, I don't think are necessarily oriented towards a more casual player. They're mostly us trying to streamline towards what's the most fun thing to do. In general, in Diablo 2, your bag filled up fairly often. Every time it did, you popped a portal, you went back to town, you sold some stuff, you went to your stash, you went back and fought. And it was very repetitive action that wasn't really core of what the player wanted to do. So we didn't see a reason for making the player go through all the steps to return to town to do everything that they want to do. So we prefer going back to town and breaking the combat aspects of the game to be more profound. You're turning in a quest, you're upgrading an item. It's for something more prominent than just my bag is full. So our goal with the auction house is to have a completely free market. So we're not going to limit item prices and things like that. If an item sells for a lot of money and people are willing to pay a lot of money for it, it's up to the people involved in the system. We've expressly focused on making sure that not only do we not plan to modify or control it in any way, that we don't benefit regardless of how it works out. So, for example, if items are selling for a high amount, well, we don't take a percentage of the cut. We take a flat fee. So we don't really care how much items are selling for one way or the other. And if the market, say, doesn't support high-end item sales, that's fine. Like it's really about kind of true supply and demand, and what players want to spend, what they and what they want to actually exchange. Players are already doing in Diablo 2. There's already a healthy third-party market in Diablo 2 where people are buying items with real money and trading items for real money. So given that, we mostly looked at it as a way to give players something they already wanted, but give it to them in an environment where we can guarantee that it's secure and that they can have a good experience.
Let's talk about the decision to take skill points out of the game. And I just read, maybe it's wrong right now, I don't know, that you also think about the possibility to take to upgrade weapons with runes, with rune stones, yeah, that you maybe take this out of the game as well. Is it true or not? Maybe to change this color system with, what I mean with the runic system.
I don't know anything about the weapon side. On the weapon side, we haven't removed anything from the game. You can't use runes to upgrade weapons. Are you talking about the D2 feature of using runes?
No, I'm speaking about you have right now you have 7 different colors which runestones can have, and okay, there's 5 colors, and this will remain, right?
Yeah, runes aren't going anywhere. Runes are just fine. We're playing around with the system, but we're playing around with implementation details. We're not cutting any content at all. On that side, and nothing on weapons. We did remove skill points. And what was specifically your question there?
Well, you removed skill points, and there was a lot of, I won't say flame wars, but many people.
I would say there was some fairly big controversy over it, and I think the thing is that it's funny because on one hand, we announced that we were taking skill points out of the game, and people said, well, that's such an important aspect of customization, and we turn around and say, not really. It's a small increment of power. I know some people think it feels really great. We found that more people think it doesn't. They don't really know how to spend their points. They don't know where they go. It actually creates a lot of problems where you end up with a very small skill set, because you stack all your points into one set of skills, and therefore, even if you have extra points left over to put in something else, unless you can cap a skill, it's useless. And so you end up with this one or two sets of uber skills, and those are all you want to use. We wanted to create a game that had a lot more combat depth.
But on the other side, it's the same what the guys from the World of Warcraft team did, because they also had skill trees and skill points. So you can say, I take it out of the World of Warcraft as well.
The difference between us and World of Warcraft is their system is not the core of what drives the skills that the player has. It's a customization system exclusively. So there is a little bit more point there, although I would argue that a lot of the times what ends up happening is because they've got to spread power out, that you'll have a skill that you'll have one talent point equals 0.1 less casting time for a skill. Does that really feel awesome? I would argue it doesn't. And that's something we did not want to happen with Diablo 3. And so we focused more on saying, adding skill points is such a small increment of power that it's not a meaningful choice. And furthermore, it's a choice that people generally didn't make. Most of the time, people just go up onto websites and find what is the optimal aspect for there and choose that. It's not a customization system.
And in the end, everybody plays with the same skills, right?
The other thing that was controversial was the fact that we reduced the skill restriction to 6 skills. And everyone's like, oh, that's terrible. How can you take away our freedom? And it's like, well, skill points take away your freedom. We basically moved restrictions around. We said instead of restricting in how you use skill points, we're going to restrict in how many skills you have. And that's what's going to dictate the maximum amount that you have. So you could say, oh, well, now everyone's going to have all the skills. I was like, well, no, you're not, because everyone's restricted to 6. And that restriction is much more compelling. When we've had from playing the game is that figuring out what that right combination is, and then figuring out the right runes, because that's a further restriction. You only have 1 rune per skill, and there's 5 different runes for every skill. You start working out all the different combinations you can create, and it's actually far more compelling diversity than skill points gave you. Yeah, skill points creates lots and lots of variations of different builds you can have, but they're shifting around like tiny increments of power. And at the end of the day, the classes don't feel that different from one another. Whereas if you choose, that even 1 skill difference from somebody else, even 2 runes that are different from somebody else, and it can completely change how the build plays. To us, that's far more compelling customization.